Before we dive into the absurd costs associated with moving the most important man in America, let's first get an understanding of how he moves around. For starters, he's never alone. He never takes public transport, and you'll never see him pay a dime to board any plane, train, or rideshare. Depending on how far the president needs to travel, domestic or international, or how quickly he needs to arrive somewhere, his transit can be any combination of private jets, private helicopters, customized limos, and 100-car convoys. You won't see America's leader hailing a cab or gasping for air on the peak-hour subway, that's for sure. Undoubtedly, the most famous presidential transport method is the impenetrable flying fortress known as Air Force One. In most situations, the presidential aircraft of choice is the Boeing VC-25. Two of these were specially customized at a monumental construction cost of $325 million each. What does that kind of money buy? Luxury, safety, security, and lots of it. Taking into account fuel consumption, staff costs, and logistics, every single hour that the Air Force One jet is airborne costs taxpayers a whopping $206,337. Shall we take a look inside? It costs enough, we probably should. See what a flight is like in the eyes of America's leader. The president has his own suite that features a large office, bedroom, bathroom, gym, and conference room. There's a medical suite, 2 food preparation areas capable of serving 100 people, 85 onboard telephones, and close to 20 TVs. All this is spread across 4,000 square feet of floor space on 3 vertical levels. And since the aircraft is capable of refueling mid-air, Air Force One efficiently can fly forever. With all these lavish features considered, the 325 million unit cost starts to make sense. In situations where the distance traveled is rather small, the president can choose to hop on Marine One, the helicopter provided by the Marines. Choppers like this one, the $5.9 million Sikorsky UH-560 Blackhawk, are typically used to fly the president from the White House helipad to nearby Andrews Air Force Base to meet a larger plane, and vice versa. Alternatively, to fly to other areas within the Washington area, like the Pentagon, for example. Helicopter travel is more efficient, doesn't need a runway, and requires a far smaller staff than a jumbo jet, so it's relatively a cheap option for political travel. However, in the White House, cheap is a relative term. Marine One flights can still rack up quite the hefty bill. Any guesses how much an hour on board a Sikorsky UH-560 Blackhawk costs? A smidge under $2,200. If there's an Air Force One and a Marine One, there must be an Army One, right? Correct. Except with the Army, and in fact with all military vehicles, the codename One doesn't refer to a particular model or a particular vehicle unit. It's rather a basic code. Actually, it refers to any vehicle that is carrying the president. If the Army told the president to take the wheel of a tank or an ATV or even a bumper car, then that tank, ATV, or bumper car becomes Army One. Make sense? While the Boeing Air Force One jets might be the most luxurious and Marine One helicopters the most maneuverable, the presidential transport method that radiates the greatest levels of intimidation and power is, without a shadow of a doubt, the motorcade. With extensive uniformed and undercover police presence, to get the president to his destination via city streets required some 100 people and between 40 and 50 vehicles. It might appear chaotic with sirens blaring everywhere you look. However, the convoy is delicately structured for optimal protection. Leading the pack is what is known as the route car, which drives a few minutes ahead of the main motorcade, examining the roads and providing guidance. Then we've got the sweepers, a collection of local law enforcement vehicles, either cars, bikes, or a combination of the two. The core of the motorcade always features a collection of specialized custom government vehicles. One provides a moving communications center, one carries a radar disruptor to ensure nobody outside of the motorcade can eavesdrop on the top secret conversations, while others carry medical personnel, White House staff, and press. The most focal point, of course, is this car, a $1.5 million 20,000-pound bulletproof monster. Rather appropriately, it's been nicknamed the Beast. Although within the motorcade lineup, it's referred to as the lead or the stagecoach. In other words, the car carrying the most precious cargo. Its walls are as thick of that as a Boeing 747, and it's fitted with tear gas dispensers, electrified door handles, and even a button that launches nuclear missiles. For the purposes of deception, 2 identical beasts always travel within the motorcade, and we never know which one is carrying the president. Due to their specialization, all the motorcade vehicles, except local police, need to be transported to the destination city in cargo planes before the president arrives in Air Force One. This, in and of itself, is roughly a $101,000 operation per hour. So hypothetically, if the president were to make a simple 1-hour trip from the White House out to, say, the UN building in Manhattan, how much would it all cost? Let's map it out. First up, the president needs to travel from the White House to the Andrews Air Force Base, which is usually on board Marine One. There's a 12-mile flight that takes about 8 minutes, but it's worth noting that Marine One is always flanked by up to 5 additional copters, bringing the short trip up to $3,180 total. Upon arrival, Air Force One awaits, ready to go. From there, it's about a half-hour flight to New York's JFK Airport. That's $103,169 down the drain. Rather than motorcade through multiple boroughs, Marine One then transports the president from JFK to the downtown Manhattan heliport, a hasty 7-minute trip. Then comes the motorcade. It might only be a 6-minute cruise up FDR Drive, but it racks up a very, very hefty bill. Not because of their presence on the road, but because the vehicles need to be flown in on the C-5 Galaxy cargo plane, which tallies $50,471 for the half-hour trip. So all up, including transfer times, it's almost precisely an hour journey. Over $50K for the cargo plane, plus close to $103K for Air Force One, and another $3 for Marine One brings the total up to $156,820 for the single hour. That equates to, $2,614 per minute. Evidently, the numbers we've been throwing around today are astronomical. Over $2,600 per minute? It's insane. Some might argue that it's overkill. However, there are a number of crucial reasons why these complex, expensive transport operations are in place. First and foremost, and the most obvious reason, is safety. By traveling in private vehicles surrounded by police, Secret Service, and military personnel, the exposure to potential threats is minimized. Alas, it's not eliminated entirely. To this day, the most dangerous moments in a president's life are when he's in transit. You need look no further than the assassinations of John F. Kennedy and James Garfield to see how even a split second can turn a motorcade into a horror show. In JFK's case, he was riding in a $200,000 1961 Lincoln Continental convertible. After that fateful day, it was mandated that the presidential cars be closed and protected. But besides the glaring requirement for safety, these private transport methods also allow for maximum efficiency. The president and his staff are busy people who travel all over the country and beyond. With so many places to be and so many people to meet, fulfilling the requirements of the job would be impossible without escorted and lightning-quick travel. With $350 million spent on making sure the president arrives on time and in one piece to speeches, rallies, meetings, dinner parties, or a day at the spa, the question must be asked, where's this money coming from? Who's funding these trips? It's simple, really. Everyday taxpayers, just like us.